Hello! Sorry, I'm kind of trying to adjust the lighting on this, and I'm like, I think it looks good. Oh, and I just remembered, I forgot to rub this off. The other day, I after I went to Eat, Drink, Vegan, which I might talk about today, which is this food festival, I felt horrible because of all the food that I ate. And so I came home and like put together a bath and was like trying to just make myself feel better. And I rubbed this what's the word for it? Like medicated, all natural stuff to help like clear up stuffy noses. And it was like maybe expired or something. So A, didn't work, and B, I still have residue from whatever it was on me, and I realized earlier today it's like showing up. It looks like I have some weird like rash or something, but it's really just the residue. And I feel like my face is still affected by all of the like junky vegan food I was eating. So I feel slightly self-conscious at the moment, but that's okay because that's what this channel is all about, is being all right with, I'm like, is there this filter? Maybe I can use this filter for a moment because it takes away any of the flaws. You gotta love technology. Okay, how do I get rid of this? Okay, some people have joined already. Wow, so you guys are fulfilling my dream, or starting to at least, of having this uncensored live Mondays at 5 p.m. Pacific be like a thing that hopefully you guys look forward to when you come and participate. I know I say this so frequently, but I'm gonna keep saying it till I get out of my system. I love doing live videos because I love talking to you guys, and for those of you watching the recording, thank you, which is most of you. In fact, I don't want to forget to address my last video from last week. I cannot believe how many views it's received relative to what I normally receive on this channel, especially relative to the video before it, which is all due to the title. So last week, if you haven't seen it yet, which you probably have given the view count, it was talked about like sexuality and this event that I went to. So I put that in the title, like what I learned about my sexuality. And I received like 3 to 5 times the number of views that I normally get on my videos simply because of the title. And it's just an example of what happens when you title things properly or use the right thumbnails, like anything that has to do with sex, I guess. Like I retitled the video before that to see if it would work, and like the views barely went up on that one. So I think it's just the fact that I said that I was going to talk about sexuality, and it just goes to show that sex sells, which is also interesting because yesterday I was talking with this Instagrammer who's been doing really well in the health world, and she was just like addressing the fact that, sex sells, and like women always seem to do so well on Instagram if they're in their bikinis or if they're like showing off their bodies and somehow, and just this kind of trend of superficiality when it comes to social media. And that's something that I think about a lot. And I've actually had to, continuously do a lot of work on that because I have always wanted to be authentic, and it's ironically like worked really hard to be authentic when it comes to my content, because the temptation to be superficial, the temptation to buy into just this kind of like, I'm gonna do this so I get more followers and get more views and get more likes and all that, is very, very tempting. And I've been wanting to do a video, maybe this video will turn into that subject matter, but I have a number of things I'd love to talk about today in addition to addressing live questions and suggestions that come in. As usual, I will get to those. But to complete this thought, it's very, very tempting. And I have been creating content for coming up on 10 years now. I started my blog in 2008, so that's almost 9 years this fall. I started Facebook and Twitter in 2009, so that's coming up on close to 8 or 9 years. That was like early 2009, if I remember properly. And so I've been creating content for a very long time. And my ego sometimes gets upset when I see other people that have surpassed me. And it's not always like a numbers thing, it's the fact that they get opportunities that I don't. And I have to check my ego a lot because I sometimes feel envious that they get certain opportunities or they get recognized, like sometimes literally, like people know who they are, but they'll be like promoted or talked about, or, you know, everyone's like the top 10 Instagrammers, the top 10 YouTubers, the top 10 blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of rare for me to be in there. Funny enough, the top 10 lists I've been in lately have usually been like blog related. I'll be like top 10 or top whatever vegan blogs. And I update my website like maybe twice a year right now. Like my website is the lowest priority for me. And so I guess I don't know. My point is it's hard for my ego sometimes because I've been doing this for so long to see people who are new to this field doing quote unquote better or be more recognized than me. But what I've often realized in observing their content and also knowing them, because I know a lot of the vegan content creators out there, I've realized that a lot of them are not extremely happy or any happier than I am. And Evie's being really cute, if you haven't noticed. I'll just stop for a moment because I know you guys love to observe her. She's like created a tent for herself in between my pillows. Anyways, it's an ego thing, I guess. And coming back to this authentic thing, like for me, this uncensored channel is really freeing for me because I strive to just be myself here and to share my life and to not worry about what I title my videos, how I look in my videos, what I talk about in my videos, how long my videos are. Like these videos are really just an opportunity to connect with you guys and to talk about things and like feel a deep connection with you that's not superficial. And I try to do that in all my work, but this is where I feel the most free. And it's interesting though, is observing how content creation trends evolve, is that people are rewarded for being superficial and people are rewarded for cheating, for lying, for doing all sorts of deception, for maybe not stealing, but like weird practices. Like right now on Instagram, bots are like this thing, or like systems where you can buy likes and buy followers and spam comments. That's like rampant on Instagram right now. People are using programs where they'll go and comment on people's accounts, automatically go and comment on people's posts. Like the other day, I didn't even use hashtags on one of my Instagram photos, and yet two random people I've never heard from before commented something that had nothing to do with the photo, and so it was clearly a bot that was like, okay, go follow this account and comment on one of their photos so that maybe that person will follow you back or interact with you. It's bizarre. It's so bizarre. And so the other thing is like in addition to people using superficial content, such as like overly exposing their bodies all the time, using sex to sell, they're also using weird tactics to make themselves look like they're more popular than they actually are. And that's really fascinating too, because part of my income comes from sponsors, and it's fascinating to me when I'm talking to sponsors because their sponsors are often obsessed with how many followers you have, how many likes you get, how many comments you receive, all of those things. And what the sponsors often don't realize is that the people with high numbers in all those categories might be faking it all. And so it's really tough for someone that's striving to be authentic and never fake anything, to make everything organic. Where I'm being compared to people with inflated numbers sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes or a lot of the times that's the case. And so it's kind of weird just being in this world where it's like, but I'm real and I'm trying to be authentic and, like all of that stuff. And there are people around you who are getting rewarded for kind of gaining the system. And that's just hard. It's hard to be in that. But if you guys didn't know this about me, a huge part of my work is studying business, studying strategies, teaching other people business strategies and monetization especially. So what I can do in those moments is separate myself from Whitney Eco-Vegan Gal to like Whitney business person, business coach, whatever you want to call me, and simply observe what's happening, learn from it, and learn how to overcome it and be patient with it. And that's part of what I teach my students. So I feel very grateful that I have this other side of my world and my business where I can just kind of observe what's happening versus be upset about what's happening. And that's actually, in general, a great tip, and I would share this with all of you. Whatever it is going on in your life, whatever injustice you're fighting or facing, or things that are challenging for you, learning how to observe your reactions to things. One of the books that I've read recently talked about this, how we can see like our ego getting involved with things, and if we can step back and like observe ourselves, what we think is ourselves is actually our ego. And so it's like we have two separate selves, we think. So it's kind of, I'm not probably not saying it as eloquently as how I read it, but my takeaway was like, what we think is ourselves is often just our ego. And so if we can step out of our ego and observe our ego and and just like see how our ego's feeling and reacting, then that becomes our true self. That observation is really who we are at our core. And our ego is just something that's built up over time and developed all these challenging feelings and negativity and jealousy and competition and like all of that stuff. And we can step back and go, you know what? That doesn't feel good, and that's not really me. That's just who I've thought I've needed to become in order to protect myself and deal with things in life. And having taken that perspective and that and practiced that in my daily life, it's actually been very, very healing for me, because I realize I don't have to react in a certain way. I don't have to get upset about things. I don't have to judge things. And I can kind of like tap into who I really am. And that's really relieving. Okay, let me pause. I have like a list of things I've been wanting to talk about. I've started to take a ton of notes to kind of always have something prepared for my videos, and I don't remember what any of them are. But before I look at my list, I'm going to look at some of the comments that have come in here. Thank you, Walter, for being here, and Green Dragon. See, it's so amazing to see familiar faces and usernames from video to video. And Vi is here too. So Walter was saying he was looking at my face, not my neck. You know, that's another interesting thing is the things we feel self-conscious about, other people might not even notice. And Yadi, thank you for your sweet words. Samsa is asking if I'm taking probiotics. Yes, I do take probiotics every day. I do think it's important to take them daily, because it just most of the probiotics are designed to be taken daily, so it depends on the type. But it's good just to manage your gut bacteria. And in terms of weight loss, probiotics can technically help with weight loss. I don't know if I've seen a difference in them. But in terms of like if your digestion is really backed up or you're struggling with it, it can just help things move your digestion along, and your digestion really plays a role in your weight, depending on your body. So, and Vi, I mean, it's amazing like that you've been part of Eco Vegan Gal for so long. Thank you, Teresa, for being here today. And Liz, thanks for being here. Meg's in Canada. What probiotics do I recommend? I'm taking one from this company called Organifi, and I'll link to that in the description of this video. As you guys may know, I'm a part of a number of affiliate programs, so when I recommend products and you guys purchase any of them, I get a small commission that doesn't come out of your money, it comes out of like the company's money. So if you guys want to check out the probiotics I love, I'll link to it in this YouTube description. I highly recommend it. I've been taking Organifi's probiotics for, actually Organifi is like the parent company, but they have a different name for their probiotics, and I'll link to it regardless. And I always appreciate if you guys purchase through my link, so that way I can bring some more income into my work. Yeah, their probiotics are amazing. I've been taking them for about a year now, and they're great. I just take one every morning, and it's just kind of like a peace of mind knowing that I'm taking care of my whole like bacteria in my body to keep it healthy. And I think for me, while it might not have contributed to like weight loss, for example, it has been helpful for my digestion, and taking them every day to kind of build up the healthy bacteria helps me digest food better. So that's been just kind of the benefit there. Okay, let's see what comments have been coming up. Teresa, thank you so much. And Sarah Mel for being here. So I'm going to look at my notes, see what I wrote down for you guys. It's amazing how much comes up in my mind in the week in between these videos. Let's see here. Okay, how about this? I've written down 4 different concepts, and I will read them out one by one. And how about those of you who are here live, just vote which one you're most interested in. So get ready, get your keyboard open, and so you'll say 1, 2, 3, or 4 for the topics. Number 1, I can tell you the story of a credit card that I found. So that's topic number 1. Number 2 is the story about the top regrets of the dying, which you guys might have heard of. If you haven't, super interesting. So that's number 2. Topic number 3 is, let's see here. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Oh, I actually really love this one. This one, number 3 was breakup stories, and actually thinking of heartbreak and breakup as being positive. And then number 4 is about friendship and some interesting mindsets around friendship. So number 1, finding a credit card. Number 2, top regrets of the dying. Number 3, a positive mindset around heartbreak and breakups. And number 4, some interesting points about friendship. So which are you guys interested in? For those of you watching live, type it in your keyboard and just 1, 2, 3, or 4 for those topics. And I'll wait to see what your answers are. Okay, Katie, I'll get back to your question in a second. So we've got 3, number 3 seems to be very popular, and 4. Okay, I'm gonna give it another moment. 3 again. Yadi says anything. Teresa says friendship, which is number 4, so that's the second most popular one so far. Liz says 4. Oh, this is gonna be hard to count. Oh, I don't know. Looks like number 4 is coming in strong. Oh, I'm gonna have to do a tiebreaker. I wish I had like a little voting system so I could like see on a chart, because I feel like now I have to go back and count it. Okay, it's tied between 3 or 4. So for those of you voted either any, or those of you who voted for topic 1 or 2, will you now vote for 3 or 4? So again, number 3 or number 4. So number 3 was what you can learn from heartbreak, and number 4 was some interesting points about friendships and things I learned about friendship. So everybody vote one more time, and then I will choose one. Patience here with live video. Number 3 is for healing from heartbreak, and number 4 for let me find actually a better way to phrase number 4. Okay, 3 is coming in. 4. Oh, true and false friendship. Okay, Psalms, I'm not doing 2. I'm either going to talk about heartbreak or I'm going to talk about friendship. So heartbreak is number 3 and friendship's number 4. It's kind of seeming to lean towards friendship, so I think I'm going to talk about that today, and I will cover heartbreak in another video and the other topics in other videos. So I wanted to share this article that I read, and just kind of like read through it out loud because I found it really interesting. And there is a philosopher, a Roman philosopher from the 1st century named Seneca. How many of you have heard of him before? Really fascinating work, and his work comes up in a lot. Stoicism is the topic, the kind of like related to him or credited to him. And I see him coming up a lot amongst entrepreneurs and thought leaders, and I'm always just fascinated what I can learn from him. I've actually never studied any of his work beyond what I've read in like blog posts or listened to podcasts or things like that, quotes and all that. But great article that I came across the other day called True and False Friendships. And I think this is such an interesting topic. I've actually had so many interesting things happen for me over my lifetime, but recently, semi-recently, some interesting things happen with friendship. So I just kind of like to learn about this. Now, C.S. Lewis, the author, who some of you may know about, has a great quote at the beginning of this article. It says, "Friendship is unnecessary. Like philosophy, like art, like the universe itself, it has no survival value. Rather, it is one of those things which give value to survival." How brilliant is that? That's like mind-blowing type of thing. Value to survival. And that could be a whole nother topic, because how fascinating is that when you step back and look at your life, and how this is a concept that comes up when it comes to fear a lot, is a lot of the things that we're afraid of are so unnecessary because they're not actually threatening our survival. And the main things we need to survive is like food, water, and shelter, right? And so unless, it's rare in our lives that our survival is actually being threatened. And we see like long-term survival being threatened. We're often very concerned about our health and our long-term health, and then something like cancer comes up, or a disease, and we have to decide how we're going to deal with it and all of that. But survival has changed so much in terms of mankind. We look back to the days where we didn't have a lot of shelter, we didn't have easy access to food or water, and so we now live in this world of so much convenience, and our survival is rarely being threatened. And yet we build up all this fear, and we build up all of this elements of our lifestyle that have nothing to do with our survival, and I guess friendship can be considered one of those things. However, there's also a lot of interesting studies that are done on the impact of love in our life. And there's an old story or research that you may have heard about in the past about how I'm not going to share all the details because I don't remember them off the top of my head, but it was like during one of the wars, I think, where some children were taken away and being taken care of by like nurses or something. They were taken from their families. I don't know if their families had been killed, or if they were trying to protect the children during whatever was happening, if it was like a war or something. And these babies were removed from their families and being looked over by nurses. And a lot of the children didn't survive because they were only being fed and given water and changed, and etc., but they weren't given love. And the study actually showed how love was so important to our survival. And I think that so much of friendship, what we want in our friendships is love and acceptance. And so we look to other people to show us who we are in this world, and to help guide us through our decision making, and we can reflect with them on things. And I notice a lot of people that struggle with depression or isolation and all these issues is because they don't feel love and they don't have any great friendships. That's actually part of the reason that I've been working on the Eco-Vegan Pal project. And say many times, it's in process right now. It will be ready at some point. But I've been working on this online ability for people that are like-minded, who are in the eco-vegan community, who want to connect online, because I came across so many people who said they don't have friends, or they don't have anybody in their life that understands veganism, or understands what they're learning about health and their health decisions, or doesn't understand the environmental side of things. So I do think friendship is helpful for survival, but C.S. Lewis's point is that it's not crucial. It's not that our friendships necessarily mean that we're going to survive or not survive. And the article says, the truth of this beautiful sentiment resonates deeply for anyone whose lives has been enriched or even saved by the existence of a genuine friendship. And yet today, as we face the commodification of the word friend, what do we even mean, or what should we mean by this once sacred term, now vacated of meaning by this chronic mis-issue? So this is the topic of this article, which I will link down below. I'm going to read a great chunk of it, but if any of you want to share it or read it more in depth yourself, it will be linked. And so coming to Seneca here, he examined a series of correspondence with his friend, later published as Letters from a Stoic. And it's a trove of wisdom that gave us Seneca's famous letter on overcoming fear, and inoculating yourself against misfortune. So here's a quote from this, titled Untrue Friendship and True and False Friendship. If you consider any man a friend whom you do not trust as you trust yourself, you are mightily mistaken, and you do not sufficiently understand what true friendship means. When friendship is settled, you must trust. Before friendship is formed, you must pass judgment. Those persons indeed put last first and confound their duties, who judge a man after judge a man after they have made him their friend, instead of making him their friend after they have judged him. Ponder for a long time whether you shall admit a given person to your friendship. But when you've decided to admit him, welcome him with all your heart and soul. Speak as boldly with him as with yourself. Regard him as loyal, and you will make him loyal. This is interesting. Before I read more of this article here, I do think this is very wise, and I don't know about you guys, but in my own experience of friendships, it's always interesting to see how long friendships last, and how the role that friends play in your lives, and whether you can really trust them. And I've gone through a lot of ups and downs in my own friendships over the years, and I have a few core friends that have been friends for a very long time and have stood the test of time, and a lot of various tests that have happened throughout. And so I think this point of judging someone, and not like judging as in like, I see you as right or wrong, but really paying attention to somebody before you start calling them a friend, before you open up and share your whole life with them. I think it is important to just really get to know somebody. It's kind of like dating, being very mindful about how you act with each other or how somebody treats you before you decide to get married to them. And I think that can also be applied to friendship here. And coming back around to the very beginning of this video, when I talked about authenticity and how people are often rewarded for being superficial, that word friendship or friend just gets tossed around a lot, and sometimes if you really observe your definition of friendship, pay attention to all those details, you'll realize that someone that you're calling a friend either might not think the same thing about you, or might not be there for you during hard times, or maybe you're calling them a friend because it's beneficial. Like, I don't know about you guys, but do you ever feel like you call somebody a friend because it makes you important to somebody else? Like, oh yeah, I'm friends with so-and-so, I know so-and-so. I've caught myself doing that, especially in Los Angeles. It's all about who you know, and so much with social media too is like, who are you seen with on social media? And sometimes people will use each other in order to look important. People do this with celebrities, people do this with anybody that's famous online, and the word friend just becomes this very casual thing. So I actually try to use the word acquaintance for people that I don't truly consider a friend. And that seems to hold me in integrity for really being mindful of like, who's a true friend, and just starting to pay attention to myself and how I use that word. And I also think the point here is that when we do have true friends, those are the people that we can truly welcome into our heart and our soul and speak boldly with them just as we will with ourselves. And I found that there's very few people in life that you can do that with. And I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely had some friends who I thought were really good friends of mine, but I've shared a lot of personal information with them and really trusted with them with things, and then the friendship dissolves, and I felt incredibly vulnerable. Similar to dating, like if you're dating somebody and you give your heart to them and you're just like so vulnerable with them, and then you break up, there's often, in my experience, that dread of, oh my gosh, like I said things to them that I kind of wish I had held back on, or I did things with them that I feel like maybe were too soon. And it's kind of like that balance of how much of yourself do you share with other people. And I think that also comes down to a choice too, because we could also go the opposite direction where we don't share enough of ourselves with people because we're afraid that they're going to abandon us, or we're afraid that they're going to betray us. And so, I don't know, maybe let's continue reading this article and see if there's any other good tips in here before I get too further down that path. So another excerpt from Seneca's work here said, "He who regards himself only and enters upon friendships for this reason reckons wrongly. The end will be like the beginning. He has made friends with one who might assist him out of bondage. At the first rattle of the chain, such a friend will desert him. These are the so-called fair weather friendships. One who is chosen for the sake of utility will be satisfactory only so long as he is useful. Hence, prosperous men are blockaded by a troop of friendships, but those who have failed stand amid vast loneliness, their friends fleeing from the very crisis which is to test their worth. Hence also, we notice those many shameful cases of persons who, through fear, desert or betray. The beginning and the end cannot but harmonize. He who begins to be your friend because it pays will also cease because it pays. A man will be attracted by some reward offered in exchange for his friendship, if he is to be attracted by aught in friendships other than friendship itself." This is like reading Shakespeare. But it's like, kind of complex wording. One who seeks friendship for favorable occasion strips it of all nobility. Ooh, that's powerful. And there's this really cool graphic on here which shows what a true friend is versus acquaintance, people that you know and you like, and kindred spirits. And this author of this article has 4 levels of platonic relationships. Wow. I'm definitely going to link to this if you guys are interested in the subject matter and want to read it more in depth. You'll be able to once this video is over. And Seneca talks more about mistaking flattery for friendship. How closely flattery, is that right? Flattery. Okay. How closely flattery resembles friendship. It not only apes friendship, but outdoes it, passing it in the race. With wide open and indulgent ears, it is welcomed and sinks to the depth of the heart, and it is pleasing precisely wherein it does harm. For what purpose then do I make a man my friend? In order to have someone for whom I may die, whom I may follow into exile, against whose death I may stake my own life and pay the pledge to. Wow, I mean, when you read things like this, you wonder, like, how literal does he mean this? I mean, are there people in your life that you would die for? Who would you follow into exile? Whose death would you stake your own life for? Like, are there people in your life? I'd be curious if any of you want to share in the comments. Is there anybody in your life who you really feel that way towards? I think those are common emotions for love, romantic relationships, or children. But is it common for friendships? I mean, it's fascinating. I'm kind of pondering it myself. I have a lot of people I would consider friends, or a number of people I would consider friends, and a lot of people I would consider acquaintances, or in this graph here, if you look, people that I know and like, and kindred spirits and all of that. But there's only a couple of people that come to mind that I would really put my life on the line for. And maybe those are my only true friends when you think about it. It's interesting though, is one of those friends that I've had almost my entire life, I feel like it's a little bit one-sided, where in a crisis we would always be there for each other, but when it comes to day-to-day things or small things that happen in our lives, this is a friend that I don't usually go towards. It's kind of like we've been friends for so long that we don't need to talk all of the time and share every detail of our lives, but we would always know that the other person would be there for really big elements of our life. Like I was at this friend's wedding, and I'm there when this person needs to talk to somebody at 3 a.m. in the morning, like whatever. If there's like a crisis happening, we're there for each other. But what's interesting is this friend is not somebody I turn to for small things. I turn to other people for that. And I think that's also just such an interesting element of friendship. Okay, I want to check the comments that came in. Walter says he feels that way about some people. And earlier Vi said that's the problem with social media. And Liz says she doesn't have any vegan friends or any close friends. Liz, I hope you'll be a part of Vegan Pal when that comes out. So, it's just fascinating how rare those are. So, okay, just one more section from this article, and then I'll start to wrap things up. And there were some other random questions that have come in the comments that I will address. So the last part of this article is how Seneca suggests that a genuine friendship extends its rewards beyond the personal realm and becomes the civilizational glue that holds humanity together. Friendship produces between us a partnership in all of our interests. There is no such thing as good or bad fortune for the individual. We live in common. And no one can live happily who has regard to himself alone and transforms everything into a question of his own utility. You must live for your neighbor if you would live for yourself. This friendship, maintained with scrupulous care, which makes us mingle as men with our fellow men, and holds that the human race have certain rights in common, is also of great help in cherishing the more intimate friendship which is based on friendship. For he that has much in common with a fellow man will have all things in common with a friend. Interesting. Lots to ponder here. It's that one is a little, I'll have to give that one some more thought. It's a little less obvious to me what he's saying. So, very, very interesting. Well, I would love any thoughts for those of you who've been watching during this section. And let's see some of the comments coming in here. Vegan friends are hard to find in New York. That's so interesting. I mean, I guess it depends if you're in the state or the city, but lots of vegans in New York City for sure. Yes, of course, Walter. So, the thing with Eco Vegan Pal is really just inviting anybody who wants to be part of the community. And I love what Nod 8D just said. We all now are friends. I think you're saying, are you saying globally, or are you saying specific to the live conversation happening here? Because I think that is such a sweet thing to say. And then it comes down to what your definition of friends are too, which is what this article really brings up. I'm going to click before I wrap this all up on, so this website is called Brain Pickings. And they have this list of what different types of friendships are. It's actually really in depth. So I might not be able to summarize it really well. But there's this great graph that shows what different relationships, platonic relationships, are in our life. And it starts off on the outside, acquaintances, and then it narrows down to people I know and like, and narrows down to kindred spirits. And then at the very inner level of this graph is friends. So friends showing that they're much more rare than any other level of platonic relationships. So I think what we may qualify for in this conversation today are kindred spirits, the people that are like-minded. So here's the definition of kindred spirits in this article. A person whose values are closely akin to our own. One who is animated by similar core principles and stands for a sufficient number of the same things we ourselves stand for in the world. So friends, on the other hand, I don't know if they have a great definition in here. It's a little bit of a long article. But it says some kindred spirits become friends in the fullest sense, people with whom we are willing to share, not without embarrassment, but without fear of judgment, our gravest imperfections and the most anguishing instances of falling short of our own ideals and values. That is what friendship is. So I think that is definitely a small category of people in most of our lives. And some of us may not even have those people in our lives yet. And I think that brings me back to another point is I hear this so frequently, and I saw this in the comments tonight of people saying, I don't have any friends, or I don't have any vegan friends, I don't have any eco-vegan friends, I don't have any friends that understand this or that. And it becomes almost this point of shame, whereas we feel bad that we don't have friends. But you guys may have kindred spirits in your life. I think that's happening right here in the comments. I think that's actually this channel, is anybody who's watching my videos, which is a very specific type of a person, because these videos are not designed for the general public. These are people that are interested in me and then the topics I'm discussing. So anybody that's subscribed and watching regularly is probably a kindred spirit to you guys. And then I'm sure there's a lot of people who you know and like in your life, and you probably have a lot of acquaintances as well. So maybe the great way to kind of end this topic, at least on my end, without regarding any other comments and questions that come in from you guys. But I think a nice way to wrap this up is to recognize it's okay not to have a lot of friends. It's okay to have just one friend, or it's okay to not have a friend now. But don't discredit the people that might be kindred spirits, that might be people that you know and like, and people that know and like you, and that might be acquaintances, because I think all of those people serve a purpose in your life. So a bunch of comments just came in. Let me check these out. So Teresa just said, I get upset with people that say they're animal lovers, but still say I have to have meat and won't watch anything. They're hypocrites to me. You know, that's a relatable feeling, Teresa. I think some people can agree with that or feel the same way. Christy, thank you so much for being here. Yadi said, I'm concerned that people use the word friends. Young people will confuse true friends with people you just know. What do you think of this concern? She's asking me and anybody else. I agree that it's easy to confuse the word friends and have a loose definition of the word friends, especially with the way social media has gone, with the way that we communicate with one another now through online, and how friendships can become this murky thing. But it really just depends on how it benefits you. So if it benefits you to consider somebody a friend, then consider them a friend. It's kind of like, in general in life, I have a very open mind, and I just want a lot of peace and harmony in life. So I tend to see things with loose definitions. And so friends is one of those words where it really depends on who you're talking to and the context. If we are super strict about our definition of friends, that might alienate other people in our lives. If things are causing you pleasure and things are benefiting you in some way, and if using the word friends in a loose way is making you happy, if it's benefiting your life, then I think that's okay. But if you want to have a very strict definition of the word friend, that it's helpful to understand this topic we've been discussing today and really reflect on who's a friend versus an acquaintance versus a kindred spirit versus people that you know and like. And then maybe that'll help you figure out how you want to interact with people, how you want to share yourself with certain people, what's special, what's unique in certain relationships and all of that. And Sarah Mel said, it's also cultural. Americans seem to use the words more freely, the word friend more freely. That's interesting. I don't have too much perspective since I haven't been out of the country very much in the past year, but I love hearing that from people that live elsewhere, their perspectives on friendship. So whether you're watching live or you're watching the recording, I'd love to hear a perspective from people in other countries. Teresa says, my dog is my best friend, very loyal. I would say that too. Evie is definitely a friend of mine. She's not, I wouldn't call her my best friend, but she's definitely my best animal friend. Christy just said in response to Teresa, I dealt with that this past weekend. A friend was pointing at dead animals like ducks in a window. It was very frustrating for them to be pushing me. Unfortunately, I couldn't just leave at that moment. That can be tough, the situations where people challenge our beliefs on things. And some people talking about the documentary Vegucated today. Walter said he just put that in his Netflix queue. Walter, I hoped I answered your question about Eco-Vegan Pal, but the short answer is you're absolutely welcome to be part of that. And I'll have more information up soon. Teresa asked earlier if I'm doing another retreat with Jason and Christina, Fully Raw Christina. We have no plan to do that. They both are friends of mine, but the retreat didn't really go as I expected, so I don't know if it's going to happen, at least in that context. But Christina is actually, I believe, coming out to be part of an event that Jason's doing in August in Los Angeles. It's not a retreat, but it is a really cool event. So if you guys want to mark your calendar for August 19th, in Los Angeles, we'll be doing a one-day event together, and I'm almost positive Christina's confirmed, but I can't remember. Jason will be putting out information, as will I, so stay tuned. I'll make sure to keep you guys in the loop with that. Liz says, I've never been keeping in touch with friends. Could it be because I'm an introvert? Possibly. I have trouble with that too. As you guys may know, I struggle to respond to emails and messages in a timely fashion. It often takes me a while, but that's more because I feel overwhelmed. And I always want to have the perfect response to people. So for me, keeping in touch is I want to be in the right state of mind. I want to have enough energy to respond to people. And there are a lot of layers for me on top of that. So if I were you, I would examine what your resistances are and just kind of think what is preventing me from being in touch? Does it have something to do with this specific person? Is there something that I'm afraid of? Is there something I'm holding back on? Am I overthinking it? What is it that's causing you the resistance? And when you can start to chip away at your resistance in life, that can really serve you for figuring out why you respond the way you do. And it takes a while. It takes a lot of dedication. I would like to dedicate more time to figuring out my own resistance around this. And Avocado and Soul said, my 8 rescue dogs are great company. I mean, animals are always such great company. I think, Evie I like to refer to as my companion. It's she is by my side. She's always here for me, when I get home. She's, but I'm also kind of for lack of a better word, in charge of her life. So she kind of has to be. And sometimes I think about that. I'm I hope Evie's happy. I know animals process happiness in a very different way than we do as humans, but I'm I hope that she's happy with her life. She seems very content right now. We were just out for a while, so she's exhausted. But yeah, animals are interesting. I just see them as companions because they play a very different role in our lives than people do. Okay, Carrie's here. Great to see you, Carrie. You're somebody whose name I Avatar recognize. Is always good. Shamsa just asked, I hope I'm saying your name right. How can you not take things personally if you're too sensitive? How do I summarize that? I'm a very sensitive person and I take things personally a lot, or I have in the past. I'm actually getting better about that because it's often about the ego and it's often about fear. So a lot of the times that we have negative reactions to things, we have some sort of fear attached to it. And I would say the same thing goes for Liz, who has resistance to talking to certain friends, is that there's fear involved in somehow, and that's why we have we are resistant to things, is that we're afraid of some outcome. We're afraid of being judged. We're afraid of not being accepted. We're afraid of being alone. I was reading something about that the other day. It was really interesting. Coming back to this primal fear that we have, that if I don't do things this way, then I'm going to be rejected. And if I'm rejected, I won't have any friends. And if I don't have any friends, I'm not going to survive, which was something we talked about at the beginning of this, right? Is we attach a lot of our survival to people in our lives. And part of the reason is because if we look back on a historical perspective of humans, is that in the past, our survival actually did depend on the tribe. If we were alone, it was harder for us to survive. It was harder for us to find food and water and fend off any predators. And so humans actually learned to thrive through civilization. So it was building tribes around each other that just kept growing and growing and growing. And now we depend on one another for all sorts of things. Almost everything in our lives now is because of somebody else, something somebody else did. And so we start to worry that if we don't act properly in our lives, then we will be abandoned and we won't get our needs met, and we're going to be all alone, and then it just kind of becomes this like total fear-based mentality. And a couple of people here are saying that they have anxiety, and I think anxiety really stems around fears as well. And so it's starting to examine where these fears are coming from. And a lot of people that discuss fear, whether they're philosophers or researchers, is they've discovered that fear is just that is actually like part of our old brain. There's a term for it. There's like our we've kind of like, as humans, have it built into us to always want to survive, and we've actually been conditioned to be afraid of certain things or have fear reactions to certain things if we ever feel like our survival is being threatened. And so anxiety can actually stem from all of that. There's some really great books on this that I will put in the description. Highly recommend it. I actually have all sorts of resources on this, so I'll put them in the description field of this video. Let's see. Whoop. I have experienced anxiety a number of times in my life and gone through therapy and done a lot of research and reflection, and I do meditation and yoga and all of these different natural ways to deal with stress and anxiety that have helped me out a lot. So maybe I will do a video about that, probably on the main Eco Vegan Gal channel. I will do a video about how to handle stress and anxiety, because I think there are a lot of people that can relate to that. Okay, let me see a few more questions that have come in. Teresa recommended Embraced by the Light. I'm going to look that up. If you guys didn't know about it already, there is an incredible service called Overdrive that allows you to read or listen to books. If you have a library card, it's completely free, and you can download digital books to read on your computer or a device, and you can listen to audiobooks on your phone or an iPod or something like that for free, and it's incredible. So anytime I recommend a book, you can check it out on Amazon or iTunes, or check it out on Overdrive if they have it. The only downside to Overdrive is they don't have every book that exists, number one, and number two is that there's often waiting lists for books. So if you want something instantly, I would recommend getting it through Amazon or Audible or a service like that. Okay, let's see. I know there was another question that came in a long time ago, and I don't know if this person is still here, but I'm going to scroll back and see just in case. I think it was related to, completely unrelated to the subject matter, but I will answer it anyways, because that's the joy of doing live videos. Hold on. Way back here at the beginning. Okay, Katie, are you still here? If you're still here, I'm going to answer your question. If not, because you asked me like 40 minutes ago. If you're not still here, I might skip over it. But if you are still here, I did see your question. I'd be happy to answer it. And Carrie just asked, how do I stop binge eating? That I would love to do a whole video on that, but I will answer real quick. I think, because I've struggled with this myself, is understanding why you're eating, what you're eating. And for me, my binge eating and purging, when I was struggling with this, was very connected to how I dealt with stress and challenging emotions. And a lot of eating disorders are stemming from a need to control or a feeling of being out of control, which often leads to us wanting to control things, or feeling not good enough, being shamed about our weight, our appearance. There's a lot of emotional elements tied into any sort of response to food. And so I would say to really take a step back and try to understand yourself and what you're going through and find other ways to deal with that instead of food. So one example for me is because I've used food as a way of dealing with my own stress a lot in my life. I still do that like every once in a while. It's taken me a lot of work and a lot of consciousness around food and my body and emotions to get better with it. But when I was younger, I had no concept of who I was or why I was doing things, and it was just like, oh, well, I feel like I don't like the way my body looks, so I'm just gonna eat as much food as I want and then throw up. Or, I'm really stressed out and emotional, so I'm just gonna turn to food to help me deal with my emotions. A lot of the times that we eat a lot of food is because our body can't process digestion and emotions at the same time, at least not in a very in-depth way. So a lot of people will turn to food as comfort because it distracts their mind from thinking too much. And also certain foods have chemical reactions in our body that make us feel better. So like chocolate is a classic example of it releases the feel good chemicals in us. So that was for me. I think I've talked about it here, but I went almost the entire month of May without eating chocolate because it was becoming my go-to drug. I was having chocolate every day. I was kind of like binge eating it. And it was just like an addiction. And so for me, the exercise of removing that type of food from my life not only helped me get it under control, but it also helped me realize that I don't need chocolate and I don't need all the sugar that was connected to the chocolate. And the chocolate that I have had in the past like week or so has been very pure, small amounts of chocolate and very little sugar, if no sugar. Like the first time I had chocolate in like over 3 weeks was just plain straight up cacao. And then after that I had like some super simple raw chocolate that had like a tiny bit of sugar in it. And a lot of raw chocolate. And so it's not as intense for me. It's not as addictive for me when it's just small amounts of it. And so I would say step back and figure out why you're eating the way that you're eating. And then also if there are certain foods that you're eating more than others or depending on more than others, see if you can take a break from them. Like do a cleanse or a detox or, just abstain for them and see how you feel with removing those from your life. And Vi just said something. Let me pull it up. Alter Ego quinoa, that chocolate, yes, that's very good. I think there's a fair amount of sugar in that chocolate, but it is nice. I think it's fair trade and organic and relatively low in sugar, if I remember. And Sarah Mel said, I have a small amount of chocolate every day now so I don't binge on holidays because I don't feel deprived. And so that is another thing that you guys can consider too if you're struggling with this. If you feel like you're hooked on certain things and binge eating it, having it in small amounts frequently may help you because your body isn't or your mind isn't thinking of it as scarcity. I've experienced that too in my life. I still do this actually, and I haven't fully gotten into check, but I, from a very young age, have had this mindset that there won't be enough food for me, and I have no idea where that comes from. But it's like this bizarre fear of like, I better eat a ton of food before it's taken away. And so I have to be very mindful when I eat, is to eat slowly and pay attention to how food feels and to appreciate the food, so smelling it, chewing it, savoring it, and just taking it in helps my body catch up to it so that I don't have this reaction of like shoveling it all in and then not feeling good. Okay, tons of questions coming in now. Carrie also asked, how do I wash my eco traveling utensils when outside? Just some water poured on them and a napkin, just getting off all the little pieces of it. I've been using bamboo utensils for years, and full disclosure, I don't always wash them. So because they're bamboo, they are not as prone to bacteria collection. I've never had an issue with my utensils. So even when I haven't washed them thoroughly and frequently, it hasn't affected me. So I just use a napkin or just a little bit of water on them. And then, depending on your comfort level with cleanliness, you can clean them as soon as you get home. Okay. Samza also suggested removing foods that trigger you helps a lot. Absolutely. Vi is talking about Alter Ego's chocolate and not being as sweet and small amounts. Yeah, I do like that about Alter Ego is that they're pretty bitter. Their chocolate's not like super sweet. There's a ton of like chocolate raw or like pure chocolate in it. So a little bit goes a long way with bars like that. And so for me, that's an advantage. I actually don't buy it because I don't like it that much. But when I do buy it, it takes me like a week to make it through one of those bars because it's like so intense. All right. Well, I've been talking for an hour today, so thank you all for being here and watching the recording if you are. I am always just blown away by the people that watch these long videos, but it just goes to show that you guys are kindred spirits to me. So thank you for being that in my life. Thanks for being here. This hour flew by. Carrie just asked, do I venture out to meet new friends or do I stick with old ones? I meet new people all the time. And because I'm introverted, that can be challenging. But I'm fortunate in the sense where there's an abundance of people to meet. I just met a bunch of new people last night at a party and connected with somebody that I didn't know very well, who now we're probably going to go hang out. And I have all these acquaintances in my life that I could build friendships with if I wanted to. So I actually have the opposite problem where I feel like I meet too many people and would prefer to just interact with less. And that's why people you see me with Jason a lot. Like Jason is one of my best friends and I could spend every day with Jason. Like we're deep, deep friends and I would almost rather spend all my time with him and barely anybody else. Or my friend Allison, I could see every day, but she's hard to visit. So, for me, there's just certain people in my life that I would rather see all the time and not see anybody else because I'm introverted and I like those deep friendships. But I think it's also nice to go out and meet new people. Okay, a few more comments came in. And thank you for Sarah for being here. You said you're usually commuting at this time, so I hope at least you can watch the recordings once they go up. Thank you, Carrie, for being here. As a reminder, anybody that enjoyed this, is that I do this every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific live, and then there's always the recording to watch later. Ted, thanks for being here. And if you missed the beginning, check out the link in the description and or watch the video when the recording's up, which should be in the next 15 minutes or so. I'm always here for you guys, so if you have questions, follow-up questions, put them in the comments. Sometimes it takes me a while to respond, but I do read them and consider them. So I will get back to you at some point. Thank you, F. Roy, for being here, and Nod8D and Teresa. I really, really appreciate all of your support and just your presence here. And you are not just supporting me though, you're supporting one another, as somebody said earlier. You guys are kindred spirits, so you've been in the presence of lots of amazing people throughout this, and you always are through the recordings, the comments, everything. So I hope you never feel that you're alone, because I'm certainly here for you, and a lot of other people are watching, are energetically there for you. And once I get Eco Vegan Pal finally together, hopefully you guys will be part of that and you can feel even more connected to one another and all these kindred spirits. So until next time, I will see you next Monday at 5 p.m. unless I do some sort of spontaneous video another time. In the meantime, if you're missing content from me, go over to the main Eco Vegan Gal YouTube channel. I do live streams every Friday. I do live streams on Facebook every Friday, and I also do live streams on Instagram every once in a while and stories over there, sometimes on Snapchat. So the links in the description field below will lead you to all the different places I am online throughout the week, so we can connect on a more regular basis. Until next time, have a phenomenal rest of your day. If it's still Memorial Day for you, I hope you had some time off and spent some time with friends, ate some good food, and have a great rest of your week. Until we meet again, bye.